Welcome to episode 3 of Cosmic Motion, an audio program where we discuss motion pictures good, bad, and ugly, and always interesting throughout the cinematic cosmos. We will be speaking about all kinds of elements of this particular film, and will likely spoil some aspects. Please watch the film first, and then you can come back and join our graveyard discussion.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the wonderful Cosmic Motion. That's right. That's the sound of our throngs of fans.
Or death.
Sure. And which is, germane to this upcoming conversation.
Totally germane.
But no, we have a setup kind of like the Today Show where we just have like an open... Well, first of all, I mean, we are recording this in the illustrious...
Skoker's Ellenwood Shop of Horrors.
Exactly. And it's kind of set up like, there's the ticker tape outside and, also just tons of adoring fans watching us do this. And
I wish the press didn't send the helicopters.
Well, and then I'm used to that, but it's when we get flashed. That's when it gets really hard to concentrate.
I'm used to that.
I know. And Bill is used to that.
My name's Bill. I'm a writer, director, editor.
I'm Colin. I'm a multimedia editor.
Speaking of getting flashed.
Exactly.
Cemetery Man.
Or, as I prefer to call it by the original Italian, DELLAMORTE DELLAMORE. Which means of death, of love.
Che fai? Che cosa?
So, Bill, I have a bit of a confession to make.
Tell me.
So, well, it's for our audience, really. We kind of had to stop down and cut this one in two.
You mean we stopped and started over again?
We did. So this movie has a really interesting and kind of well-documented way of losing an audience. And I'm going to be the first to admit it lost us. We were floundering, trying to talk about this thing coherently.
So we're going to be traversing through the bogs of horror film.
Will you hold my hand, Colin?
I will hold something.
Whoa.
Yeah. She liked that.
The interesting thing about this episode, though, is that this film, DELLAMORTE DELLAMORE, is kind of, it's horror technically, and it's also very much comedy, black humor.
Yeah.
Like a kind of...
It's very Evil Dead 2.
Yes. Not quite as manic.
No.
But...
It's not quite the Looney Tunes cartoon that Evil Dead 2 is.
Yeah. Less Three Stooges, but definitely a good sense of humor. Pitch black, about death.
Although there definitely is a Three Stooges character smacked, like just
yes, there is
front and center in this.
You're right,
and God, I love him.
I do too.
But
he's one of my favorite things in it.
Love him so much. And actually, apparently, we just lost him just a year ago.
You're right. I saw that.
And that's
he was like 66 or something. He was,
Oh wow,
not that old.
He left us too soon. Well, so can you tell us some? First of all, I feel like my first instinct is always go to IMDb to get the synopsis. But as you rightly, abjured that idea in the last episode.
WRITELY.
Well, give us your own synopsis, Mr. Bill.
A man who is tired of life lives in and runs a local cemetery in a small town somewhere.
Very much Italy.
Is it?
I don't know, but it
feels like
it's Italy coded.
Right. I mean, the behavior, the cultural tropisms are Italian. I don't know. I can't tell if is it supposed to be England? Maybe is it supposed to be Italy? Is it anywhere?
It's tonally fucked up, but I get the sense that it's Italy. Just for if nothing for this, but that they every scene that's not in a cemetery is like in a town square. Is like in a piazza somewhere.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel England to me.
Yeah. Okay. Italian, mainland Europe. however you want to look at it. I don't think it's important, really.
Certainly not.
Yeah, I think it's almost, it's like an allegory almost. And so this man who's tired of life runs this cemetery where the dead won't stay down. They keep coming up from their graves, and he takes it upon himself to dispatch them one by usually shooting them in the head or giving them some kind of blunt force trauma to the noggin.
Yes. It really is just head trauma what seems to kill these things.
But things go amiss when he meets the newly widowed, gorgeous woman who he falls in love with this woman, and then her husband comes back from the dead and kills her.
Well, so this is quite a synopsis you're drawing on it.
Well, I think that's really actually only the beginning, because she dies 2 more times. She dies 3 times.
Yeah. Well, so
or at least 3 versions of her die.
Yeah, but okay, so yeah, it's essentially I don't know, what would you call what is even his role at the cemetery?
Well, I
an
guess
undertaker? No, I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. I think he is an undertaker.
Well, he calls himself the engineer.
He does?
I feel like at the early in the movie, he calls
I didn't
himself
realize
the
that.
Engineer.
Well, maybe that's an Italian thing. Speaking of being in Italy, maybe they call their undertakers engineers.
Good morning, engineer.
Miss Caramondo, I'm not an engineer.
Are you or are you not the watchman of the cemetery?
Well, of course I am.
You are therefore an engineer.
Non lo so. But he's okay. Well, so yes, essentially a grave digger or the.
I think you're right. He's an undertaker.
Okay,
I think you're
Let's
right.
go with that.
Yeah.
So an undertaker is dealing with the zombie problem in his cemetery.
Yes. Yeah, it's like perpetual.
That's about as deep as it goes, right? I mean, obviously there's
Well, I would say I would include the love. If you want to do like a log line or some kind of elevator pitch, I would say an unhappy undertaker deals with a zombie problem in his cemetery, but falls in love with one of the zombies. I guess you could say
a potential zombie.
I mean, she becomes a zombie that he falls in love. So
sure,
however you want to synopsize that and make it one little sentence.
Falls in love with the living dead, one way or another.
I mean, in a way, I guess this movie is about a love of death. It is about necromancy to some degree.
Yeah. Well, actually, now you mention that, it is actually a lot deeper than I'm giving it credit for, because and we haven't gotten there yet, but there's a kind of a moment where Rupert Everett, who this film stars.
Oh, we should talk about the actors.
Oh, and we will. But he kind of becomes he kind of decides to participate in games of life and death. But yes, let's talk about this cast. Who we got? Who we got up in an old cemetery, man?
We got
Rupert Ev.
Coming off of years of British television, soon to be a big star in American film for a brief moment.
Yeah, because I mean, who among us hasn't seen Dunstan Checks In?
Yep. Or My Best Friend's Wedding.
That's the one you were going for.
Is Dunstan Checks In? Is Rupert Everett in that?
Isn't he?
Holy smokes! I don't know. I never saw it. Is that the one about the monkey that plays baseball?
Oh, is it? Oh, I don't know if he plays baseball, but it is definitely a monkey movie.
Is it with Matt LeBlanc?
No, you're thinking of Ed.
Oh,
No. I'm wrong. That's Whoopi Goldberg as a coach of a basketball team.
Wait, which one's? What are you talking? Which one's Dunstan?
Ed is Whoopi Goldberg coach. Dunstan Check In. I think Dunstan Checks In is just like a monkey running amok, running amok film.
Oh, I should watch that. Does it talk? Does that monkey talk?
It can't possibly.
It can't be as good as Carnival Magic, which has a talking monkey in it, which is probably the best monkey movie ever made.
Oh wow. Well,
aside from King Kong, but I mean.
Well, I think Clint Eastwood would argue with you on that one. I mean, Any Which Way But Loose, or Any Which Way You Can. Were there 2 of them?
There were 2.
Yeah.
There were 2.
Okay, Dunstan Checks In is a comedy directed by Ken Kwapis. Oh, so you know it's quality. The film stars Eric Lloyd. I'm not going to read that. Okay, but it's definitely like a monkey runs amok in like New York or something.
Should we cover this movie?
We might have to.
1996. It's only 2 years after DELLAMORTE DELLAMORE.
But fucking Ken Kwapis. I don't know.
I don't know anything about that director.
He's fucking just special.
Faye Dunaway's in it.
There's
Pee Wee Herman's in it.
we got Rupert Evans.
We got Rupert Everett as Francesco Dellamorte, which
We've got,
means Francesco of Death. Okay.
Yeah, we've got the beautiful, as you already illuminated, the beautiful Anna Falchi,
AKA Anna Cristina Palomacchi, who was born in Finland
molto bene,
and is part Finnish and part Italian.
bene, and she plays the character she, or as it might be pronounced in Italian, lei.
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought you were going to say she.
no, that's French. That's French. No, so yeah, we got her, and we already alluded to the most important character,
Go
the
ahead.
heart and soul of the film,
Hit it.
Miyagi,
What's your name again?
Yeah.
Yeah, played by?
played by Francois Haji Lazaro.
Yes, who is also featured in City of Lost Children.
Oh, get the fuck right out of here. That's
Yeah.
where I've seen this fellow.
He's in there, yeah.
Well, so let's talk about, that's interesting because, okay, right off the bat, I got to stop using that phrase because we're 10 minutes in.
Right off the bat.
I really do have to stop using it.
Also, we'll talk about that later. That you do that a lot. It's okay.
We'll talk about that later. I do that a lot.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I don't want to, you don't want to spoil the plot. I'll never give that up.
No, never. By the way, guys, heavy spoilers.
Yes, heavy spoilers and heavy backbreakers too. We'll also get to that later. So is it Michele Soavi?
Michele Soavi. I
Soavi.
think maybe, yeah.
Molto bene.
Really interesting career, that guy, because he started out and he was basically assistant director to people like Dario
Yeah.
Argento.
Yeah. And he worked on Brazil as well. He was like an AD on it.
He worked on a few films for Gilliam, which I didn't realize until like yesterday. He worked on Baron Munchausen. I didn't realize he worked on Brazil. Michele Soavi also worked for Lucio Fulci. I think he worked for Lamberto Bava a bit. He acted in stuff. He was an actor in some Italian giallo and horror films, or gialli.
Well, and so it's interesting because I've heard people refer to this film as the last proper Italian horror film. I guess in a
Okay.
certain tradition,
I see. Okay.
which you just mentioned the standout names.
Okay.
But I don't know if I agree with that or not. But I guess I also can't refute it. Like I don't know. I can't think of an example of this kind of Italian horror film that persists after this.
Yeah, that comes out. So this comes out in 1994 in Italy. And
94.
And like 95 in the United States.
Yeah.
Or 96.
This just feels like and maybe I'm just being maybe just kind of like a recency bias of having heard that, but like I can't think of like a film in like a kind of a Lucio Fulci tradition or whatever that's
Yeah. No, yeah. In terms of just straight horror, I can't think of one that's after that at the moment. Although
maybe like some Peter Jackson films, but those aren't Italian.
right. I think Fulci might have made films into the mid to late 90s, so he might have some. But I don't know if what they mean is like quality, like the best of
Right.
kind of thing. Or
But
if
also,
they just mean,
I mean Argento too, but it's like Argento's quality dropped off pretty
right.
drastically.
Obviously, he did Dracula and other things after that.
Yeah.
More recently.
Well, so I don't know if I can refute that or not, but it does feel like kind of a last. It does feel like kind of the last of its breed, or a dying breed, rather.
I mean, I think to make a horror film that is this kind of black humor, I haven't seen a lot in general. There aren't many horror films quite like Cemetery Man or
Yeah.
Dellamorte.
I mean, there's we I guess we referenced Raimi.
Yeah, you were talking about Evil Dead 2. Yeah.
And Peter Jackson, but I mean, he kind of hung up his horror hat. I mean, I can't think of like who's doing the great horror comedy stuff.
I mean, I would take this away from them because I would say that Jackson and Raimi are in a similar vein of splatter gore.
Sure.
Which is humorous and outlandish. This has some splatter to it, but it's really not that so much. It's more dark humor with some kind of grotesque moments and some hilarious, like weird, like a talking head and things like that.
Yeah. And a lot of things floating on strings,
Sure. Yeah.
which are adorable.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So
One other person I want to mention.
yes.
One other actor, Mickey Knox, who was a guy from New York. He was like from Brooklyn or the Bronx or something. And he was blacklisted.
Oh.
Moved to Europe and did a lot of acting there. His career, I think, kind of took off there. He also did voiceover work for films by people like, Sergio Leone.
Okay.
And he's actually where the name Mickey Knox in Natural Born Killers comes from, the character played by Woody Harrelson.
Look at you connecting the dots as you are wont to do.
It's a fun little thing.
He plays the marshal.
He plays the marshal, yeah.
Okay.
Straniero.
Who's constantly going out of his way to make sure that Rupert Everett never gets connected to any potential crime. Like Rupert Everett could show up with like a severed head.
Yeah.
And like this guy would be like,
well,
you found that on the street. Right?
Yeah, somebody else must have done that.
Shit.
It kind of reminds me of the end of Bad Lieutenant Protocol.
I was gonna fucking say that.
That's,
Bill, you just made me so happy.
It gives me such joy when this happens in a film where the most guilty person just keeps getting away with it. And they're your protagonist, and you're like, how is this happening? I don't know, but it's wonderful.
Although that makes me so happy that you said that, because I totally got that vibe of that scene in the station where just like every little plot contrivance gets just tied up perfectly for him.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, we found the other guys that did it, right? I don't remember exactly how it goes down, but that's a magical
You won all
scene.
this money,
yeah. But this is, I guess, a little bit less Deus Ex Machina than that. Like this is kind of, it's just like, because first of all, Rupert Everett plays the most emo Undertaker of all time.
He's pretty emo, you're right.
And there's like these rumors swirling around about him in town. Like there's like his dick doesn't work.
Yeah. Impotence. And I don't know how that gets started, but I think it's because he doesn't have anybody. And so they just think, well, he must be impotent.
Well, that's not true, Bill. He does have somebody.
Well, he eventually does.
No. Before that. And after.
Nyagi?
He's got Nyagi.
But he's not loving on the Nyagi, is he?
Well,
Nyagi's straight. Nyagi likes that other girl, remember?
Well,
the mayor's daughter.
Hey, we're going to get into old Nyagi and Rupert Everett. To old Dellamorte's. We'll get into their fate.
Yeah.
But first,
yeah.
What? So how this movie opens up with just like a very bold declaration of what it is.
Yes.
Like it's first scene, here are the rules.
Can we go? I want to rewind a little bit.
Please.
The opening shot. I don't know if you remember it. It's really impressive for the time because it's not VFX. It's a camera, I think, comes out of a skull and pulls back, and then there's like this weird windy thing that it pulls back out of some kind of sculpture and past all these things. It's a really intricate, interesting camera move that shows you this is about death, in case you were wondering. And it was really beautiful and impressive. And this film has a few moments like that with really beautifully executed camera acrobatic shots.
The tradecraft in this is very impressive. Surprisingly so for how schlocky it is.
Yeah.
And it I guess maybe that's part of what's so unique about it is I don't know if I could pin this down. And you're right to kind of divorce it from the, Joe Dante, Sam Raimi, Peter Jackson, whatever. Even though there's shades of those things, this feels like it really stands on its own. Now, I think there's probably a reason why it has been slept on. I think it's kind of difficult to make heads or tails of what is exactly is happening.
The script has some issues.
And it's kind of, not every movie needs to be a message movie. This movie is just a kind of a fun movie about Undertaker blowing the heads off of zombies. But it does seem like it's kind of going for something deeper, and I'll be damned if I know what the fuck that is.
Well, it's interesting because you, and maybe this is my own predilection or something. I think that the movie is a romance. You're focused on him blowing off the heads of zombies. I'm thinking, I think it's a love story.
Well, yeah, I do think it is, but I guess that's the messiest part of the movie. Like that's the part of the film that makes the least sense and is more difficult to get any value out of, I suppose. Not that stuff doesn't ever work, but so
I think one of the things that maybe that hurts the love story is that she keeps dying. And
Yes.
so you don't know when he meets her again whether she's dead or another person altogether. Is that the same person somehow?
Yeah,
Or-
and if I thought that they were going for some kind of a Vertigo thing where it's like, like there's some deeper meaning about like,
right.
love transcending generations and things like that, but I don't think that's what they're going for.
Well, it's funny you say that. I definitely feel like it has some Vertigo vibes at times because, well, Hitchcock himself said that Vertigo is about a necrophiliac.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a bit extreme, but okay. He does technically love a dead woman, so I guess in a sense he is.
Yeah.
But he winds up falling in love with a living woman, really. But anyway, whatever. And in this case, Dellamorte, the Rupert Everett character, does fall in love with this woman, and then after she's dead, stays in love with her.
Yeah.
And also he lives in a cemetery. He's kind of surrounded by death, so maybe he is some kind of necrophiliac. So maybe there are kind of reverberations from that story, Vertigo.
Well, and not only might he be a necrophiliac, but she certainly seems like she might be, and I guess
Yeah.
we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess maybe let's kind of walk through it a little bit. I mean, so yeah, film opens. I actually slept on that opening shot. Or either that or I didn't notice how interesting it was.
I mean, it's not amazing, but it's beautiful. It's beautifully done.
Yeah.
And it definitely kind of gives a visual cue as to what we're going to be dealing with for the next, 90 minutes or so.
Well, but that opening scene at the very least, I mean,
Yes.
you're not the movie's not trying to pull the wool over your eyes at all. I mean,
Yeah.
Immediately, zombie bursts in the room. Rupert Everett's on the phone.
Yeah.
He's not phased by this.
Yeah.
Shoots as a zombie, goes back on with this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, and also, in our last episode, we kind of talked about, and obviously these could not be further apart on the spectrum of horror.
Very different.
But this is also kind of another movie where it feels like, and again, this could just be my bad reading of films, it feels like the rules are kind of understood already. Or like there is like, maybe not the rules, because like this is just kind of your typical zombie movie in a way.
I think he and Miyagi understand them. I don't
Right.
think anybody else is aware that the dead are returning to life.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of, it just feels like it's a thing that has been going on forever, and it's like, for all we know, this could have happened just yesterday, or this could have been going on for decades.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like the movie's not interested in answering that question, which I appreciate.
Yeah. I don't think the movie's terribly interested in conventional narrative. It definitely feels like it's trying to make a lot of jokes about death and romance.
Yeah.
And, story be damned. Like, I don't care if these characters develops over some kind of arc that makes sense and then comes to a nice natural conclusion.
Yeah, no, I think that's very true. That being said, it does, it is. I guess the romance stuff does feel. It starts off conventional enough.
Well, kind of conventional, right? Like he tells her about. I'm trying to remember. Is it like ossuary?
Well, that's where I was going to kind of get into her being a bit of necrophiliac.
A bit of a freak.
I have never seen anything so exciting.
Neither have I.
Rupert Everett is the Undertaker. It's established right away that he's also somewhat of a, killer of the undead. He's taken this upon himself.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I mean, maybe it's just because he works there.
The
lives
kids
there.
might say he kills walkers.
That's right. And his, along with his, sidekick. That feels like it's not giving him his due credit.
Sancho Panza
Yeah.
to his Don Quixote.
But his Nyagi is his. We'll just call him his Nyagi. Yeah, I mean that's his partner in crime, and he can only say one word.
Yeah.
Is it nya?
It's basically that, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Something
he's
like
like a Pokemon of some kind.
Yeah.
And they
He eats a lot of pasta. He likes pasta.
He really likes his pasta, like piled on mounds of like other kinds of protein.
It's not pretty to watch him eat. He really goes at it.
Which almost makes me believe that it is an English film, just because the quality of the food is pretty scary. Oh, they've gotten better. Anyway, no, but it's
Curries. Don't you like your curries?
I do, but I'm not going to give that to them.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, so I mean, like they have this weird kind of coexistence, and it just kind of feels like that's their day to day until this Anna Fulci character, Lay, as we come to know her, just kind of stumbles into his life. And I guess she's at a funeral.
She comes to the funeral of her ex-husband, or not ex-husband, her dead husband.
That's right.
Her dead husband. And there's a great moment where she starts talking almost out of nowhere to Rupert about what a great lover he was.
Well, so yeah, Dellamorte spots this lady and immediately falls in love. And it's not hard to understand.
She
why.
is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And that is an understatement.
No, she's got extremely fluctuating heat. She's something else.
That's the name of your next band.
That's right. It's my hipster band. But he pours it on thick.
He does pour it on thick. He's not very smooth.
But that's why, and so that's what leads to the scene that you were just describing.
Well, so he's pouring it on, and she could care less until he says, "We have a great ossuary."
Yes, and then she
perks up real quick.
Super horned.
She's very happy to hear that.
But before that, as you were alluding to, she's talking about like the sexual prowess of her husband, her dead husband. But now, why did he die? Like of old age. It's like he's
He looks like he's 80 years old. I don't know. And what's great is she says this, and we haven't seen the husband at all. We don't know if he's 30 or how old he is. And
we've seen a picture of the husband. He looks like Angus Scrim.
Not yet.
Stepped into the fly telepod with the crypt keeper.
She says it. She says it, and then we see the picture. That's what's funny.
Yes,
that's what
true.
makes it hilarious.
You're right. That's true.
So she says, "What a great lover he is," and then Rupert looks at the grave, and on the grave they have a picture of him.
Yeah, and like his grill's all fucked up.
He has like a kind of a crooked smile, like this 80-year-old, and it's kind of great. Like,
oh no, it's a great joke.
Like he died a happy man.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. So, and apparently was a great lover. So good for him.
Yeah. But as you mentioned, Rupert, as is the wont of every undertaker, thought like a real good pickup line would be to mention their amazing ossuary.
Yeah, you want to check out my ossuary?
Because all the boning that goes in.
Hello.
But she gets super interested, and that's where I guess this theme of necrophilia kind of creeps back in. So maybe you're right about that. Maybe there is more there than I am willing to let on to.
I think that there's at least thoughts of a kind of meditation. This is to me a darkly comedic meditation on death.
Yes.
Now, is it extremely well executed in terms of the script? No, but image-wise and in terms of the ideas, I think it is saying some interesting things, and it is sometimes doing it in a way that's very entertaining.
No, I think you're right. And like, actually, you were talking about the tradecraft. Dellamorte mentions the ossuary. She gets super horned. They go in there.
Yeah. And
this is where one of those kind of acrobatic shots that you were mentioning takes place. Like there's like a tracking shot or a dolly shot. Not tracking shot. It's like a dolly shot or either that or like they're like on a rotating platform. But it's like the first time that they kiss.
Okay.
Well, so first of all, she, puts like a shroud over his face.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing. Yes.
Which was kind of, it's kind of effective, actually. I can appreciate that.
So the kissing through the cloth, I think I read, was taken from a painting.
Yeah, a Magritte painting.
There you go.
Yes. I think I have also in my research stumbled upon this, and apparently it's not the only nod to Magritte that happens in the film.
Okay.
But that's the only one. That's the only thing I guess I would be able to pick out of the lineup if you made me.
It's a very sensual, interesting moment.
Yeah, it's actually kind of like it's kind of like
It's kind of sexy.
yeah, your pants get a little tighter when that happens.
And
But
and
when it while it's happening, like the camera is spinning around them and it's like holding them perfectly. And I was just thinking about like the lighting and like the guy who did rack focus for that, and like it's like this is actually pretty good. Like
yeah.
And definitely there's just a lot of stuff like that. This is really pretty well shot. Now there are also some really amateur effects. But then again, this might be a movie that was never meant to be watched without film grain.
Okay, so this is where, since you said it, now I'm going to ask you, what are the amateur effects? Because I can't think of any. I love almost all the effects I saw, but I can't. Maybe there's something I'm forgetting.
Just a lot. I mean, look, there's a lot of shit on strings for sure.
I didn't see any string in the copy that I saw, but I believe you. Absolutely believe you.
Oh, there's like these wisps, these sprites. They're like these blue flames.
The
Which
little
I love,
blue flames.
by the way. Yeah.
Those were on strings.
Yeah, they're totally. I mean, you can see
I
that. You
didn't
can
see
see that.
that.
There's a head at a certain point which we will also get
The
to.
woman's head who falls in love with
There's
Gnocchi.
there's a head that becomes detached from a body.
Okay, that one's a little cheesy when she's in the television, but still. I
No,
mean,
but
I
at one
adored
scene,
it.
I love it. But
Yeah.
at one scene, it chases somebody across the cemetery.
The father.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's kind of just shuffling through. And then also the way that said head gets removed.
In that case, it must be uneven because it does have a representation, a portrayal of the Grim Reaper that is
Yes.
one of the best I've ever seen.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Done with wind machines and cloth
Yeah.
and just like
Puppetry
really
and-
shot just beautifully and just I loved it so much. I could look at that for a long time. As is the case, I guess, in this small town, they've just met. They've gone to the ossuary. She wasn't interested. She got to the ossuary. She got very interested in him physically.
Yeah.
Very hot and heavy. And they start having sex.
No,
or,
not yet.
Or they're about to have sex.
But why does he? Yeah. What blocks?
They're
what
about to have
blocks?
Then the husband comes back from the dead.
No. First,
Oh,
the skeletons in the ossuary get a little gropey.
Gillo Gropey on her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember? So she like ends
Okay.
up, she like gets back against the wall, and the skeletons, they kind of just they get a little grab. They get
Okay.
a little grabby.
Okay,
And,
and
then,
then-
that removes some of her clothing, which is essential.
Right. And then Rupee gets in there and he's like, no, boys, this is mine.
But she doesn't flee the cemetery. She just leaves the ossuary. He catches up with her later on said husband's grave.
Right. Because that's where you want to,
And that's where they seal. Why do they seal the deal there?
I think because it's only appropriate.
No, remember what she says?
That she wants her husband to know. And,
No secrets.
No secrets. No
Which was
secrets. It is kind of great. She's very honest. And so he has to try to have sex with her on top of her husband, or next to her husband's grave. And that's when the husband has other plans. He comes up
Yeah.
from the dead and in a kind of gruesome moment bites into her arm, and you see like this flesh being torn away and
Yeah.
blood leaking from her, and she's screaming, and then she just dies.
Yeah. Well, so Rupert, I want to call him Rupert, but Dellamorte is just so much sexier.
Or Francesco, if you want.
I like Francesco as well.
Okay.
So Francesco, yeah, he brains said zombie with like a cross or something, or a grave, and then yeah, she like dies from like a bite wound. But like the police eventually, the ever lenient police of whatever Western European country this is, later catch up to Francesco, and they're like, oh yeah, she must have died of fright. But it also seems like she was having sex, but it couldn't be you, because
Because you're impotent,
yeah,
which is great. And
it's so weird.
I did wish, I know that story logic doesn't really matter in this movie, but I
Yeah.
did wish that she died from something other than an arm bite. That was just weird to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it feels cheap.
I mean, if you got bit in the arm, yeah, you might die like 30 days later from an infection, but like to just die right away from getting bit in the arm was...
Yeah, because it made me wonder if like maybe there's some specific rule to how these creatures work. Like maybe they have a disease or something. But then again, I'm pretty sure other people get bitten and don't die.
Not that fast.
Right.
She dies right away. They should have had him bite her in the neck or something like
Right.
that. That would have been more like sexual, and also it would have made more sense just biologically.
I mean, maybe that's meant to be taken literally. Like when the police say she died of fright or whatever. I don't. It's clunky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, so
I was very sad that they'd killed off that hottie so fast into the film, but I was soon to be satisfied
that's right.
a couple times. How?
Well, Ms. Falchi, she does return to us.
She returns this time as one of the living dead first. And it's actually quite almost like a Japanese kabuki style ghost that she looks like. The way she has all this like fluttering cloth and like, was it like little tree branches? Like she has a lot of, she looks like a pixie or something.
And it's well done.
It's very well, it's beautiful. Again, just really tasteful.
Striking image.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned kabuki. I didn't get that sense, but I did get little wafts of like haozu.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Like I felt like there's like the same kind of like cheesecloth like put over the, you know, the lens at times.
Lens.
Like there's kind of like a softness to like some of the fog effects and like the supernatural stuff, and even like the floating little sprites, which are adorable. You know, even that kind of like evoked some kind of like, I don't know, I don't even know what you would call that brand of Japanese horror. I feel like there must be like a movement that it belongs to.
Maybe Japanese ghost stories.
Yeah, but I did feel a little bit of that in there. So it's interesting that you mentioned kabuki.
Yeah, either kabuki or some influence from the horror from Japanese theater and or other films.
But this does feel distinctly I don't want to say un-American, but un-studio, which is very refreshing.
And yet very well produced, crafted. So I wonder if the one that I saw had the strings taken out digitally or something, because I just didn't see that, or maybe I just didn't see them.
I mean, this doesn't feel like a movie that's like getting re-released and
It did. It got
good.
Not in the. I don't know about the theater, but Severin did a 4K.
Oh, God bless him.
Yeah,
Severin and Arrow and all those fucking
just
like warriors for restoring shit.
Yeah,
God bless them. Vinegar Syndrome. Gotta love them.
yeah.
Yeah, but this doesn't feel like a movie where they would go George Lucas, you know, put walkie-talkies over guns and shit. Like
Well, no, I mean, I'd forgive getting rid of strings personally.
I guess. Well,
walkie-talkies over guns, that's a separate thing. That's not good.
Sure. Well, they're pretty noticeable. I actually found a certain charm there. I wasn't rolling my eyes at the film. I didn't, you know, I wasn't. It didn't ruin my immersion so badly that I would, you know, turn the thing off in disgust or anything. But they were there,
right?
And I do think it's a balance. I think that sometimes the effects are incredible or really striking and visually interesting, and sometimes they're like a little bit bland. Like you know, eventually a character that we're introduced to is beheaded underneath a bus, and that was pretty B movie. You know, it was pretty.
I thought it was fine. Maybe I'm just very lenient, or I'm not as keen.
I'm not being. It sounds like I'm being more judgmental.
You're talking about the moment where you literally see the helmet and this motorcycle under the bus.
Yeah,
wheels and stuff?
It maybe is a bad cut or something. I don't know. And again, these are look as I established in our last episode. I can't experience true joy, so I have to find ways to pry. I have to find little ways to just prick the things I love.
I don't know. Maybe you're also just seeing things that I'm not. But I'm glad that we both love it either way.
I had an absolute blast with this film, so I'm not. There's very little that will diminish in my heart. But at the same time, I and this was not my first go around with it.
I was about to. Yeah, I was thinking about talking about that. Like, you've seen this before.
Only once, and it's funny. It's funny to me that I sleep on it, but I guess everybody does because this movie never comes up.
I feel like it comes up for me on lists, maybe different lists of horror. I know Martin Scorsese was a fan. He thought it was one of the best horror films of the 90s, or from Italy, rather, specifically. So
well, you traffic in different circles as well.
I mean, I don't know Marty, but
well, you're calling him Marty.
I know. Well, you know. I mean, I don't know Marty.
You're on a first name basis with him.
No. I mean, I just, when he says he likes something, publications start to put ink to.
No, that's true.
To monitors.
And he's usually right.
Absolutely. He usually has a good point of some kind or another.
Yeah. But so she comes back from the dead. They get some second scrumpage, and
Yeah, do they? I don't think.
or they start to.
Do they actually consummate this time?
No, I don't think they seal the deal.
They don't seal the deal that time, huh?
Well, because I think that it's pretty clear that she's a zombie at this point, and that he has to take care of her
So he takes care of her for a while.
in more ways than one, Bill.
Hello.
But yeah, I guess what you're alluding to is this film has several different iterations of Anna Fulci. She's never given a name. And
Yeah.
this is the second iteration.
This is the second one, the zombie iteration.
So number 3. Now this is where I get
That's where she's the roommate, the
little
college
foggy.
roommate.
Yes.
And she has like the crop top.
right, and that's I guess where it because I guess you
Not
could
that I
say-
noticed.
Well, she's also got a different. Yeah, they try to change her up, but yeah, it's that Vertigo thing where it's like, there's just enough there.
Right.
Oh, I mean, who would be kidding? She looks exactly the same,
She's, yeah.
But I mean, studying one way or another. But I guess that really is, and we kind of touched on it. That is like the clunkiest thing about this film to me. Is like it's kind of difficult to figure out what they're doing with that.
I agree. And I don't know if it's clear in the novel, the original novel, or if it's clear in any of the stories of Dylan Dog that they were borrowing from, if they did, because I know that they took some elements because there's the whole trajectory of
Right.
that. Well, we'll go back to that. We will go back to that.
Well, so you touched on it earlier. I mean, there's an interesting conception for this movie. I guess this is a good time to address it.
So the book, he wrote the novel in 1983, the author, right? But actually, and his name is Tiziano Sclavi, and he didn't publish it. While it was remaining unpublished, he made a comic called Dylan Dog, from which he borrowed some things from his novel. The character of Dylan Dog was modeled after the actor Rupert Everett,
Right.
who was a big TV star in British television, which apparently also played in Italy. So people liked that about it. I think, that the Dylan Dog comic had elements of the character that he plays that is in DELLAMORTE DELLAMORE.
Right.
Then they decide to make them. Then the book comes out after the Dylan Dog comic.
Yes. Well, so I had heard, and not to cut you off, but I had heard that some of the writing of the original novel had to do, it sounded like they always had a movie in mind.
That I didn't know.
Okay.
That could be.
I could be wrong about that as well, but it sounded like maybe they made a book to try and persuade the studio to make this thing.
Okay. Not
unlike 2001,
Okay.
like where like Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke teamed up, wrote the book, but they never had, they always had the movie in the back of their mind.
Okay.
I feel like I read somewhere that might have been the case with this, but either way,
Yeah.
you were alluding to. Apparently, it sounds like Rupert Everett was like an inspiration for the design of the character in the graphic novel.
For the Dylan Dog character, then
Yeah.
there's another character in the graphic novel that's based on the main character in the novel, which is confusing. And then they
meta.
cast Rupert Everett as that main character.
Right.
So it's like there's all these kind of twists and turns to get to what eventually winds up being DELLAMORTE DELLAMORE, aka Cemetery Man.
Can we go on a slight Rupert Everett tangent?
100%.
What do you when you think Rupert Everett, what comes to mind?
My best friend's wedding.
Yeah. But does before this, can you think of a pre-Cemetery Man Rupert?
See, we're not from the UK.
No.
But I think in the UK, Rupie was big on TV.
Big Rupe?
Big Rupe
Yeah.
had a name in television there.
Okay. I mean, but this was, I guess I want to know when he bursts into the scene. Because this is 94.
Well, he burst onto the American scene in the, I believe, late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
That's when his career really takes off in Hollywood.
Right.
Then I think he came out at some point, and I think Unfortunately, that may have hurt his career. I don't know, because shortly after he came out, it seemed like Hollywood stopped casting him in as big of roles.
Right. You can't really best Dunstan check scenes.
That's
I'm
true.
looking at it, and you're right. I mean, like Cemetery Man, but before that, it's like TV movie, film. But like, you know, they're films that are probably foreign. And yeah, I mean, he's just. I guess the reason I wanted to go down this road is because like, it's hard for me to know how to feel about Rupert Everett. So I don't feel like I've ever seen the performance that like just seals him in my brain is, oh, that's the Rupert Everett movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I really have seen not very much of his work. Now I've seen two films that I can. Oh no, that's not true. He's in what's that Paul Schrader movie where the couple is in Italy and there's this twisted couple that manipulates them and then kills them. It's called. Hold on. Pause here. So there's a Paul Schrader film called The Comfort of Strangers that I saw him in. So I think prior to this, I had seen him in My Best Friend's Wedding and The Comfort of Strangers.
Okay.
In significant roles.
Right.
Maybe I've seen him like where he's in something for 30 seconds, but you know,
Yeah.
not really counting that.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was like a background actor on like With Nail and I or something. You know, like
Yeah,
whatever, some
totally.
random like English film.
Totally.
Well, okay, but so I took us on a digression, but it's about this point in the film where Miyagi really starts to come into his own.
Miyagi's great. Yeah, the great thing about Miyagi is and this is one of my favorite things about the film, strangely, he falls in love with the mayor's daughter. Miyagi is sitting there and he's looking at this beautiful woman. And I think he gets so excited he throws up.
Yeah, so Rupert Everett, or I'm sorry, Francesco, gets called to a meeting with the mayor in like the town square in fucking Bologna or wherever they're supposed to be, or Sussex or wherever the fuck they are in Western Europe.
Yeah.
And they're having a meeting. I feel like it has something to do with, I don't know, like there's like a disturbance in the town, and Rupert Everett is like, for some reason, like they're coming to him for his expertise or something, and Miyagi's there. And yeah, he sees her and he vomits on her.
Just something I want to bring up. This is one of the problems with the movie for me, and maybe it's because it's not spoon feeding anything, but Miyagi just sits down in front of Valentina and he's just in love. Like it takes like 5 seconds.
Yes.
There's no warning. There's no Francesco saying, now leave the mayor's daughter alone or anything in any previous scenes.
Yeah.
It just happens that you can tell that he just loves her, and then he throws up on her. And then Claudio rides up on a motorcycle at that instant.
Yeah.
And she's like, he just threw up on me. And Claudio says, get on. And her line is, you knew what I was thinking, or something like that. It's like, it literally makes it's a bizarre scene. If you watch it, it's just completely bizarre.
What's he doing? Dancing?
No, he's just about to,
What the hell are you doing, Valentina?
He threw up on me, Claudio.
Oh, new van. Like to go for a ride?
I knew you'd understand. Take off!
Notwithstanding that Claudio's pretty okay with her just souping that vomit, you know, it's like kind of clinging that to the back of his bike.
And that leads to the head squishing that I alluded to earlier. What do you call the guy that actually does the embalming and all the like? I guess that's also an undertaking.
Mortician?
Yeah, whoever's doing the mortician work, they deserve all the 6-figure salaries they can achieve, because that's this poor woman's head gets destroyed, like several pieces on the highway. But when we see the open casket,
I didn't see that happen, but I could be wrong.
I will show you.
Are you sure that's not one of the other? Because there's several of the kids. Let's call them kids because they're like in their early 20s.
Well,
or
right,
late
yeah.
teens.
Describe that scene for me. Describe what happens in that scene.
I'm trying to remember how it even happens because it kind of happens randomly.
They all whip off on Vespas,
motorcycles. Yeah.
And then there's a bus. And who's in the bus?
Is it school kids?
It's like Boy Scouts,
Okay.
which didn't know they had that shit in Europe.
Okay.
And then also
That's
like,
because it takes place in the United States. Duh.
oh yeah, well every movie does.
Can't you tell?
Yeah. But it's like Boy Scouts and nuns,
Amazing.
which is like what a combo.
Maybe that's just school uniforms for Italy.
Yeah, I mean, your guess is as good as mine.
Okay, so all of these motorcyclists, this little gang of whatever JDs, they get smashed to bits by this bus.
Yeah, they befall the wrong side of those tires.
And like it seems like 2, 3, 4, 5 of them go down.
Yeah, well, and I think the whole bus goes down as well. Well, I know it does.
It goes over the cliff, right?
That's right. Because here's the thing. In this film, if anybody dies, you're going to see them later. And oh boy, do we see that bus later.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Literally the next scene. That's when we see the open casket. And hey, fucking A+.
Good job.
A+.
Good job, 6 Feet Under.
Mortician work.
What was the name of the 6 Feet Under people? I think you're right. Immediately after that, we go to the cemetery scene.
Right.
And they have the open casket of the daughter, or it's not open. I think it's like a glass casket where you can see her face, and maybe the body is covered or most of it's covered.
Yeah.
Miyagi is very sad that this girl that he absolutely is infatuated with, but could not care less about him, has befallen this horrible tragedy.
And it's almost like a Frankenstein infatuation. Like I don't believe that Miyagi's a sexual creature,
No, it's more innocent than that.
Yeah.
It's romantic. I mean, he just falls in love.
He does, and
before you were saying, actually, I want to disagree with something.
Okay.
I want to disagree with you, Colin.
Go for it.
I'm not sure, and you're probably right, but Francesco at first seems like he falls in lust first.
Yeah, no, I think
with
that's
the
fair.
Falchi.
I think that's fair. He professes her love to her very quickly.
Yeah,
like
but
they're throwing the L word around.
That might be an Italian thing.
That's true.
Not that you and I would ever do this, but how many teenage boys
have fallen in love with me in Italy?
Have suddenly said "I love you" on a first date, and then tried to have fun with their partner. I'm sure this has never happened in the history of the world. But I'm guessing that that's what's happening.
I can't say I've ever personally thrown out the L word like first date-ish, but hey, look, you're a teenager.
I don't either.
Everything is on the table if you're trying to get in there.
I'm saying that there are men that are not as sophisticated, or as controlled as we are. Maybe
you need a holster for that tube, and if you're gonna. You got to figure out a way to get there. So at some point her head becomes detached, and it's adorable as they drag it across the cemetery lawn with strings. And I feel like she's chasing after Miyagi, but at some point her head ends up in a television set.
Yes, right? The scene of her following Miyagi. So you're jumping way ahead here.
I know.
They have a moment together where they kiss. That is the cutest thing in the whole movie.
It is super cute.
Like Miyagi is like so bashful, and he's like putting his face in the dirt in the grass, and she's like, "What? What are you afraid of?" Blah blah blah. And they have a little kiss, and then you see them walking away. Miyagi's back, and you see this little head floating on the grass. It is so...
That's what I'm talking about.
I know, but it's so wonderful.
I do.
We can't just fly by that.
No, you're right.
It is one of the best things in the whole movie.
It's amazing. And apparently this guy, Francois Haji Lazaro.
Yeah.
Apparently he's like a punk rock legend.
He's a musician of some kind. He's
something?
A French. Yeah. I don't know much about his music career, but yeah.
I mean, God bless him. What a just... very special, and apparently he was also in Brotherhood of the Wolf, which
yes,
that's a movie we have to do.
We can do it, and you know what? I've never seen it. So
it's French wire fu, with weird horror elements. This is not an episode about Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Not yet.
No, we're talking about Cemetery Man.
DELLAMORTE DELLAMORE.
Yes. So it becomes the Valentina Miyagi show.
Yes.
For a good portion of the second act.
And if it had completely converted to that, it would probably be a better movie. I'm not joking. But basically, as long as I can see Falchi and then watch the romance between Miyagi and Valentina, I'm fine.
And they really are just kind of having a little buddy comedy.
It's so good. They're talking.
At some point, her father comes around looking for a photo op with dead folks because of the massacre of the punks.
Yeah, so he's gonna take the mayor is gonna take a picture of his daughter's grave and use it in order to promote his own campaign for re-election. Yeah, and so there we go. The Italian commentary on politics, which is common in Italian genre stuff, and I love that. It's just not very well carried out, but it's there.
Yeah.
And then so he hears. Well, first they dig up the daughter and they see, oh, her head is missing.
Right.
And what's funny is, I don't know if you noticed this, but like old Rupee Roop, he drops a cigarette right onto her grave. Like as he's just trying to stick a cigarette in his mouth, and he drops one on her grave, and then he like sticks one in his mouth, and they're like, "Where's the head?" And he's like, he just shrugs.
Yeah,
or
he has a
something.
pretty good, the mayor starts hearing Valentina calling to him.
Do you remember what she says?
She says, did she call him like Daddy Poo or Daddykins or something like
Daddy
that?
Poo, I think. Yeah.
Wow.
Daddy Poo.
Okay.
Which how does she know that he's there? Is he speaking so loudly that she can hear from the basement of Francesco's house? B, why does he go there and then she attacks him? Like that whole, it's another non sequitur sequence. So I'm just like, what?
She asks for his approval to marry Nyagi.
Right.
And he says no. Or over my dead body, and she says, "Well, we can take care of that." And
so she immediately, within 5 seconds or so, decides to kill her own father because he doesn't want his decapitated head of a daughter to marry a guy who is a wonderful person, but it's understandable that he doesn't know anything about him, and he lives in a basement in a graveyard. So I think probably any father would have concerns.
Well, at this point, I mean, we're definitely kind of in Raimi territory where it's almost kind of like when the Deadites make fun of you, I almost read it as just like, there's supposed to be this comedy in Valentina realizing she's dead and going like, well, this is the best I'm going to get or something like that.
Yeah. But emotionally, does it make sense that her head flies at him and bites him?
No.
It's like, why does she automatically want to kill him? And I think it's these shifts in tone and logic and character motivation and stuff. And I'm not trying to sound like, I know I'm being technical about something that may just be intended to be completely silly, but it just throws me off.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what is going on? Like, so she's going to kill her dad so she can, like, why does she need his permission anyway? She's a head.
Right.
Like,
yeah. I guess when I say that I wish that this movie had chosen a lane, I guess I wish it would have abstained from, I don't mind you sprinkling a little bit of that in, but they spend so much time with those characters, or with her and Yagi, at least in that basement, for it to just kind of end up in this throwaway joke.
Exactly.
They should probably just let Rupee Roops kind of emo out by himself for a little while.
Yeah. Let's just pay attention to Nyagi in the head. Like, that's amazing. Like, she's in a television. Like, this is great. Where did this come from?
There's a big sequence that I assumed it was going to be like the action sequence of the film, but it's actually kind of like he kind of dispatches with all these Boy Scout zombies relatively quickly.
No.
But at some point, like he's in Nyagi's cave or apartment.
Nyagi kind of lives in the basement,
and he's hooked on his TV. For some reason, Rupee shoots the TV.
Yeah, Taxi Driver style.
Yeah, but that becomes a little alcove for Head and Nyagi.
So that's where Valentina's head goes.
Yeah.
When Nyagi brings Valentina home, he puts her head in the hole in the tube. Like, she's already been decapitated. She's pretty much harmless. The only person she tries to harm is the mayor, her father.
That's right.
And there's a Raimi style. And this is where you definitely can see some influence from Raimi, even though the films are very different.
Sure.
But you see this, like, flying head shot from the inside of her mouth.
Oh, it's a great shot. Yeah.
So you see through the teeth toward the father, and he's screaming, and the mouth is trying to bite him. It's great.
Yeah, it's terrific.
And
because they just had to build this little barn door teeth thing.
Yeah.
For the camera for this one shot.
It's a tooth cam.
It's great.
Yeah, it's great. So Valentina goes to bite the father. Mm-hmm. What do you remember? What happens?
Well, she kills him, and she is dispatched by Francesco.
Rupee Roops just comes in and blows her away. Like Nyagi's only love ever in life. Like, what does he care that this head is biting the mayor? He's been killing people left and right.
Well, at this point, he's been burned by his own Deadite version of a lover. So I guess he knows that this is not sustainable, maybe.
It seemed like it was working out fine.
It did.
She
it
was
did.
in the television. He would talk to her, and
Maybe if they could afford a big fish tank, then it would be different. But
I want to see a movie where Miyagi's walking around with like her head in a box, or like maybe carrying her by the hair, and they're just a couple.
Yeah.
But also, her boyfriend dies, and
Yes,
who comes flying out of a grave?
there's a Hammer film
Okay.
from the 70s, or Psychomania rather, is what I should have been calling it. Psychomania, or Psychomania. Or Psychomania, where this motorcycle gang commits suicide, I think, and then they're buried with their motorcycles. And when they come out of their graves, they come out full on motorcycle, and they basically haunt the town.
Which I thought they were
people.
riding Vespas, but I guess they were full on motorcycle.
I think they were full on. At least the boyfriend was.
Well, and they bury him with it.
They bury him with the motorcycle, so he literally rides his motorcycle, and it's pretty awesome.
Well, so the reason I bring it up is because there's this kind of this girl who's that's my boyfriend. I loved him, etc. etc. Like he's got like a clinger on.
This is a different girl, yes,
right,
because he loved the mayor's daughter, I guess, and then this girl loved him.
so she's at the cemetery, mourning Franco,
Yeah,
asking for a sign or something.
right.
Like, tell me, show me that you love. I was your true love, or some shit like that. He comes flying out of the grave.
Yeah.
All of the Meatloaf album cover.
Yeah, okay.
The reason that this scene is important is because so there's like the battle with like the biker who's got like a very like. By the way, whoever designed that helmet. Like his helmet's like split open like a mushroom cloud, like explosion from the top. I was like, Jesus Christ! Like,
But that's the split helmet, right? That's from getting run over by the
but
bus.
they need to manufacture those things better. Anyway, that's all I'm saying.
So Bill, I have a bit of a confession.
Tell me.
Well, it's for our audience, really. We kind of had to stop down and cut this one in two.
You mean we stopped and started over again?
We did. So this movie has a really interesting and kind of well documented way of losing an audience, and I'm going to be the first to admit it lost us. We were floundering trying to talk about this thing coherently.
I think we were cracking along for about the first half or 2/3, and once we got to that point where the she's started to pile up, where death appears, as you say, it started to get more and more foggy as to what actually happens.
Right, and it feels like I guess I would say that it's because this movie doesn't ever take any time to stew in its characters. And you were saying this off mic. There really isn't any kind of characterization.
It's pretty small. It's sort of like the characterization of Cool. I mean, the way that you're introduced to our character is he's got his shirt off, which he does often throughout the film.
Yeah, he does that well.
And Roop's built out in this film.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's a skinny built out, but he's built out. And he's in a towel, and he answers the door, and he shoots a guy in the head, and then he goes back to talking on the phone, kind of very suavely. And that's kind of how a lot of his characterization is. It's a lot of gesturing and non sequitur reactions to life, but none of it's very rich.
Right, and even in some of the more shallow cult horror films that are proudly championed by that community, there's usually more than one character that gets that treatment. And this film seems like it's pretty relentlessly sticking with Francesco. Mm-hmm. So it seems like Francesco is like the only one that gets that treatment in this film. Like,
you mean the treatment of Cool, or
no, the treatment of like fleshing him out, his personality out in any way?
I would actually argue that we might get to know Miyagi better than we get to know Francesco.
Well, that's true, but I almost feel Miyagi almost feels like a mascot or a pet.
Yeah.
He is. He's a bit of a he's what some people today might call a simp. Like he doesn't have a lot going on, but we feel like we know him. There's an innocence to him. He's a romantic through and through,
Is he ever.
At the same time, he's deceptively simple, right? Because there are those moments when he does complex thought. He performs complex thought. He puts together the skeleton head, the skull, and then takes it back apart before Francesco can see it, because Francesco thinks that he's smarter than him and he doesn't want to upset him or something.
Yeah.
And then at the end, of course, when Miyagi miraculously starts to speak again and he says, "Take me home."
Well, and they do kind of a fun little R2-D2 logic with Miyagi, where, he'll kind of growl or meow.
Yeah.
And meow. That's right, Miyagi. Meow. He'll kind of meow, and contain within that meow will,
all kinds of
Francesco will be able to decode all kinds of deeper meanings. So that's kind of fun.
You're right. In that way, he is very much like a mascot and a dog or something.
Yeah, so you're right. There is a little bit of characterization there, but I'll be damned if I could tell you exactly what the movie wants you to take out of that. And I guess a good way back into this film would be to talk about the different iterations of Lei or she. So when we first tried to tackle this one, I think that we got a few things wrong. So one thing that I missed, I think we both missed, or maybe we didn't. My memory's not great. But I feel like the sequence of events is that, Lei meets Francesco, and they're very bizarre meet cute. They fall in love in the ossuary. The husband comes back from the dead. He's dispatched. The husband bites Lei, and then we think that she dies.
Right.
Well, so what I realized on subsequent viewings is that she didn't die.
She doesn't die. Not that time.
Yeah. And so I guess I don't know how this eluded me, but she dies the first time when he shoots her.
I think he shoots her, and I don't know if she dies then either, because he grazes her head. If you look at the shot,
okay,
there's like a scar along the top of her head. She falls back. And then what do they do with the body?
Well, they must bury her, so maybe that kills her.
They bury her. Maybe she dies with the gunshot, but it seemed to me that the gunshot is also ambiguous. Like maybe she doesn't die then as well.
Right.
So it's 2 times, and then the third time finally she dies and comes back as like what I like to think of as like this Japanese ghost.
Yeah, when she's like the deadite.
She has the fluttering paper around her body.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing.
Or the tree branch head.
The tree branch head, yes.
Yeah. So that's when we at least know that we're on iteration number 2, I guess. Or are we calling dead Lei and alive Lei the first time around? That's just first iteration.
Those are all she one.
Okay,
yeah.
So we'll call that she one.
Yeah, and then there's she 2 is the mayor's assistant, and she 3 is the college / sex worker ? Who he meets very briefly.
Right. So I guess we'll get to that, but it's good that we can at least clarify that there's three she's, or 3 different beings. Mm-hmm. I guess. Mm-hmm. So right there, that already answers a few questions that were plaguing us. Mm-hmm. But I think, as you were alluding to, maybe a good place to kind of get back on the track with old Dellamorte Dellamore is to talk about the first appearance of death and what what he's doing there, maybe what he represents, and how he contributes to the plot. Mm-hmm. Do you remember like what our first encounter with death is?
So death appears the first time in the graveyard, and it's daytime, and Francesco, he's just sort of reconstitutes from ash.
Well, yeah. So, and by the way, we got to touch on that because what are they burning there?
I'm not sure.
So they're burning phone books. And
is that the phone book thing?
Yeah, and
where Miyagi's getting rid of it?
And he's really adamant about saying that it's good reading.
It's the phone book. Crazy. That is my favorite reading. Yeah. Nagi, just because we've got the new ones doesn't mean to say we have to throw the old ones away. These books are classics.
Yeah, this felt like something that they took from the novel that maybe was more fleshed out there. And then here it's just kind of a non sequitur joke. Like Francesco likes phone books, and he even likes old phone books, and he thinks that they're literature.
Yeah.
Which is amusing, but not. I don't know. It never goes anywhere, so it doesn't really pay off for me.
Yeah, no, it feels like a motif that is supposed to mean something, and I feel like there's a lot of that in here.
Yeah.
Like there's kind of like a civil service work thing going on, and that comes in to play with his buddy Franco.
Franco is the guy who's his friend, and eventually winds up at the hospital.
And I feel like maybe, and you were mentioning this off mic as well. There are some themes in this movie that we didn't explore, and one of them I think that we actually didn't explore is like maybe the malaise or the restlessness of like your daily grind, your 9 to 5. I mean, Franco definitely has. I mean, they spend like, there's a very strange sequence where the two of them are on the phone, and Francesco is just kind of shooting a bunch of the returned, which is what they call the zombies in this film.
Yeah, returners.
The returners. And so the house is just surrounded by returners, and he's just kind of casually dispatching them like from his window.
Yeah.
And he's on the phone with them. And, the whole time we're getting this sob story from Franco about how he hates his family and how he hates his wife and how he hates his job and he feels like he's stuck. And I don't know. I mean, I guess there's probably some deeper thing there that the movie's trying to hit on.
Well, everybody in this movie, I shouldn't say everybody, Francesco and Franco apparently are both very discontent with their lives. They're discontented. They want to be doing something. They don't know what, but they both have this kind of malaise, banality, and this boredom with life. Francesco occupies his time obsessing about death. And Franco, I guess, works at the government job, and eventually it drives him so bonkers that he kills his family.
Right.
Which also is another, like, what?
Yeah. Going back to death, I mean, so there's definitely a hard pivot in Francesco's ethos, I guess. And, he sees himself as he sees himself as some, like this is just a job. Like there's no kind of like a deeper meaning for him killing the dead. I mean, this is really just like his 9 to 5, right?
I think I think the deeper meaning, if there is one, is his connection with death and his preoccupation with it. I think that he is connected with death. He is preoccupied by it. And this is a kind of externalization of that for him to avoid thinking about life and living. He literally lives in a graveyard.
No, you're right, and he does this thing where I don't know if it's in the book or not, but his narration is always clarifying whether someone he's describing is living or dead. So he'll say stuff like, Franco is the only living person who ever calls me, and he'll say stuff like, she's the most beautiful living person I've ever seen. So there's just little writing angles on that would speak to what you're saying there. But death shows up, and death seems death seems unhappy that Rupert's doing such a good job of killing these returned or the returners. So he puts it to Rupert, to Francesco, that instead of killing the returned or the returners, maybe send some alive folks my way.
Stop killing the dead. They're mine. If you don't want the dead coming back to life, why don't you just kill the living? Shoot them in the head. Are you listening to me?
And why does death want that? I mean, I feel like, I think one of the reasons why you and I have a hard time, or had a hard time following the plot, is the sort of undercooked nature of the ideas behind everything.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say that I don't know if they could give you a super coherent answer as to what that's supposed to be about.
Right. Like, why does death appear? Why does Francesco start shooting the punks in town just seemingly randomly? I don't know if it's because it's discussed really thoroughly in the book, and then when they translate it to a screenplay, they just didn't include enough of that. But it definitely kind of throws the movie off for me, because at first he's shooting the return. I mean, the idea that we get, or at least the idea that I got watching it, was he is so unhappy with life and everything that he just starts killing people, kind of like his friend kills his own family. And it's meant to be taken as kind of I think like a grand guignol, like this is a really dark comedy. You shouldn't take any of it too literally. It's not cool to kill your friends or your family or whatever. But this is a way that the author is kind of talking about being unhappy about life. And wouldn't it be funny if you went and just started shooting people? And it's interesting. It's and in today's climate now, because in 1994 they didn't have as many public school shootings or all the other kinds of shootings that have been happening. It definitely feels different, I think, now than it probably used to feel.
Yeah, I feel like if this did come out now, it would almost certainly be some kind of a treatise on, how there are anybody can just become the proverbial angel of death, any moment. And I guess this movie's kind of wrestling with that a little bit. Death tells him to start killing the living, and
for some reason.
Yeah, and I'm struggling still after 3 viewings now to remember if this happens after he accidentally kills his first living victim.
I think it happens after he kills the motorcyclist's boyfriend,
yes.
or girlfriend, I mean.
Who has one of the better lines in the film.
I think Claudio is the motorcycle guy.
I think you're right about that.
So, and her name, what was Claudio's girlfriend's name? Claudio, she's known as Claudio's girlfriend.
Okay.
Dead Claudio on the motorcycle is eating her literally, and
what's her line?
What? No, you say it. You like that line.
Well, it's leave him alone. He's only eating me. Which is, I got it.
It's kind of clever.
Yeah.
And then Francesco shoots Claudio through the head, and because she's behind him, it goes through her head as well. They both fall. And now he has become a killer of the living as well.
It's pretty close after this where I think death
Yes,
appears.
I think you might be right.
So maybe that's the movie's way of saying, like, because he's crossed this line, now he's unhinged enough to just kind of slip into this weird angel of death role, or whatever. And yeah, fine.
I think that's a really apt description. Angel of death. I mean, that is exactly what he becomes. He just starts delivering death. And I think we discussed this in our first round. One of the great things about this movie, at least that for me, is that the police captain, or whatever he is, played by Mickey Knox, keeps just every time Francesco kills somebody or does something wrong, he never gets it's never blamed on him. It always goes to somebody else. To the point where he literally has the gun in his hand and he's at the police station, or he's somewhere where Mickey Knox is.
Yeah, this is after he kills Franco.
He kills Franco at the hospital. That's where he is.
That's right.
He's at the hospital, and he's like, this Mickey Knox, whatever the captain's name. He says, "Oh, somebody shot somebody in the ward." And he looks at his gun. He says, "Oh, good, you have a gun. You can defend yourself."
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
He literally yells after him, "I did it!" But he's already gone. Nobody listens to him.
Yeah.
He can't. That is something that is consistent in the film. This guy is a guy who can never climax in terms of getting what he wants, whether it's sex from a woman or a romantic relationship, or just getting blamed for his own crimes. He can't seem to actually do anything and complete it.
Yeah, which is why they keep on joking about how the town views him as impotent. And it's like, I guess, thematically he's impotent.
Thematically he is. Yeah.
So,
even though he's not in the movie.
Right.
He tries to make himself impotent, and even that doesn't work. Even that he can't do.
Well, yeah. Let's get there. Also, the first kind of killing spree he goes on, he thinks he's dreaming. He kills a bunch of the guys that are kind of razzing him anytime he goes into town.
They're the town punks, man. You can tell because they're wearing like black leather jackets and they got long hair. It's like a 60s version of the punk, or like 50s or something version of punks.
It's hard to take them seriously with their little scooters, but yes.
Yeah, they're
It is Italy. But so that's kind of his first killing spree. And that leads to another of those scenes where, Mickey Knox kind of like goes to great lengths to, pardon Francesco, at whatever cost.
Right.
And and things kind of just keep going on that way. And in the meantime, that's when the Mishigas with Valentina starts to kind of wrap itself into the plot. And that's, these things kind of are happening side by side. I guess Miyagi has decided that he's going to dig Valentina up in the middle of all of this.
Right, right.
It's also not clear like what Valentino and it almost feels like there's this kind of side plot that we just didn't get access to in this film, where there's maybe like some kind of a rivalry between Valentino and Giorgio's girlfriend. I don't know. Is it Giorgio? Claudio. Sorry.
Claudio. Yeah. So she just shows up and she's basically, she slams Francesco against a wall and she's like, I can't live without him. Blah, blah, blah. First of all, why is she talking to Francesco about this? He runs the graveyard. What's he supposed to do about it?
How does she know that they're involved with any of this?
Exactly. It makes no sense. Like there's no, that's why folks, like this whole movie is full of scenes like this. And by the way, I like this movie. I want to make that clear. But it is full of these scenes where it's just like all these unmotivated things happen. And I'm all about like experimental and not spoon feeding the audience. But I mean, it's really just like you kind of have to really pay attention a lot to
there's really no room to breathe either.
Yeah,
so
it kind of, yeah.
It's you know, and again, you know, we were talking about how there's not like really an emotional hook to hang your jacket on, and I do think you need that stuff to remember the, you know, to form some kind of connection to the plot. It helps if you can get emotionally invested, even in some like minor or baser emotionally, or just like feel some kind of excitement for some potentiality. You know,
100%. And another reason why I think that we don't have that emotional connection to the characters or to the story is that a lot of the dialogue is this terrible, ham-fisted, just like on the nose stuff, but it's also, they all feel like non sequiturs.
Certainly.
And so it's just like, wait, you were just doing this, but you're talking about something completely different. And then, but if you rewatch the film, then you figure out, oh, they're trying to talk about death, or they're trying to talk about relationships, but it's delivered in such a kind of unskillful, unartful way.
Yeah.
That it's completely forgettable, and it's kind of like they just took a bunch of dialogue. You know, the technique. Bowie may be the first person that I heard of doing this, but basically where you take lines that you've written down, either of poetry or maybe in life, you cut them up and then you put them together in a different sequence, and those are your lyrics.
Yeah,
that's what this movie feels like, except without any kind of like motivation or intention. Like it's just like literally like the sky is blue, death is hard.
Yeah.
You know, I like motorcycles. Like what?
Yeah, well, were we to? I mean, okay, so there are certain things that are important sequentially, but there are probably other things plot-wise that we could absolutely just move around, you know, and it wouldn't matter where we put them, you know, like
100%.
And so yeah, to what you're saying, I just think, you know, it's easy for a movie that operates in this way to lose you, and this has been, you know, from what limited research I've done, it seems to kind of be a common sentiment, even among people that love this movie, and I like it as well. But yeah, I mean, it seems like audiences have a hard time staying on board with it. I mean, almost, you know, it's almost like the execution is what people appreciate, and I'm with them there. There are moments of real beauty in this thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, at the risk of being really uncharitable, it's a fucking pile of crap, and then the most amazing thing you've seen, and then a pile of crap, and then the most amazing thing you've seen.
So here's the thing. I don't know if we want to talk about this right now, but I have a theory. I have theories about what doesn't work, which I just talked about.
Yeah.
But why the movie works anyway.
Sure.
In spite of itself.
Yes.
Do we want to talk about that right now?
Yeah, let's do that.
So I think what's happening, and first of all, we can cut this out, but I want to share my confusion, because I was watching it the second time and I was taking notes.
Okay.
And I'm watching it with my friend, and he's looking at the screen like, you know, WTF, like what is actually happening? And he's just laughing, and I don't know if he understood any of it. The reason that I think that the movie punches through our minds and takes a place there, there's though the dialogue and acting are terrible, some of the performances and blocking of the actors' bodies are phenomenal.
Yeah.
There's actually this kind of, I don't want to say tableau vivant, but there's a kind of dance, a kind of operatic dance. And at times the movements of the actors feel like a dance opera. They're quite beautiful and powerful. And this is a great deal of what makes the movie emotionally engaging and memorable. And if you watch it, there's the personification of death, you know, when it kind of reconstitutes through the ashes of, I guess, the phone book, which I didn't even catch that, but it's the phone book, and then it comes together and it starts talking to him, and it's this amazing image, and it's done with physical effects, and it's these tattered robes and the skeleton with a scythe, you know. And there's another moment when he sees death, and it's on this little gravestone, and you see this kind of shroud, and there's no face in it, and he's talking to it, and he doesn't think death is there, and then he turns around and we cut back, and there's a skeleton, a dark skeleton face there. There's moments like that that are amazing, but there's also moments with any of the she's where the way she positions her body, the way that she'll take a shroud and put it over her face and over his face, and then they'll kiss. There are moments of this kind of thing that are extremely memorable. Yeah. And I think that speaks to the skill of the director and of the people creating the mise en scène, and the lack of skill of the screenplay, whoever put that together from the book.
Yeah. Well, going back to your discussion of the blocking, I mean, there's so many little juicy details and little things that they are doing with even just the set dressing. I mean, you know, there's this sequence where Francesco is shooting the wings off of the statues. And then, you know, when he's talking to Death that second time, he's got these wings that are kind of flanking him behind him. And you know, maybe that's on the nose for some people, but I think it's pretty clever. And
I liked it.
And the movie does a lot of that kind of stuff. I mean, I think the whole sequence in the ossuary, as bizarre as it is, it really works visually. And
it works sensually too, just overall.
Yeah, one of the things you're talking about, the mise en scène, and then like there's this way that the movie frames flowing fabrics.
Yes,
that's really
it's
incredible.
Throughout. It's throughout.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of transitions and cuts on fabric flowing over the lens, either partially or completely.
Yeah.
And some of them are invisible, some of them are not. Then there's also just without cuts, just a lot of people wearing flowing fabric for whatever reason, such as death, such as the she's. And there's a kind of sensual quality to that. In fact, there's the power of the imagery is remarkably sensual overall, whether it's depicting skeletons in the ossuary or the fabrics that she has on that the skeletons are ripping from her body.
Yeah.
She's, you know, not to be whatever pervy, but like she is remarkably sensual just as a human being. And I think that scene in the ossuary is it's again, the dialogue is laughable. Like literally, if you print up the dialogue, you will just sit there and scratch your head and laugh at how bad it is. But if you watch the film and you listen to the music, which is quite good, and I want to talk about that later, and just the mise en scène, it affects you. The image, the director is able to communicate really skillfully through the imagery to convey feeling and emotion and lust. Like I'm actually like when I was watching the ossuary scene, it's romance, but it's also just like carnal, like these people are going to get at it like right now because it needs to happen. And it makes it make sense when they're later on the grave next to the husband's grave and they're making out and having sex, trying to have sex.
Well, yeah, and they, you know, we discussed in the first go around. There's something kind of hot about them kissing through those shrouds.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know why it shouldn't work. It should be frustrating sexually.
I think you hit it. It's frustration.
Right.
The whole movie is frustration. Everything is frustrated. Kissing is frustrated.
Right.
Having sex is frustrated. Killing people is frustrated.
Yeah.
Getting convicted of your crimes is frustrated. Everything that this guy tries to do is frustrated.
Right. And the movie conveys that really well. So yeah, no, I think you're right. That might be the linchpin that allows thing to kind of have staying power with audiences, because that stuff is all pretty good. I can't think of a moment where visually the movie isn't succeeding. I mean, I guess there's some silly effects and flames on strings. And
You don't like the flames on strings?
no, I love those little wisps. I just the strings were visible. I'm not going to now.
I'm probably going blind, but I don't see the strings. I literally sat there and I had my friend with me and I was like, do you see the strings? And he's like, yeah, it's right there. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, okay, let's rewind. And he's like, it's right there. And I'm like, I can't see it. I can't see the string.
That's good. You know what? But that's, well, also, it could also be that you're just were able
blind.
to, suspend your disbelief for a second, which, it would be kudos to the movie.
Yeah.
But I guess moving along through it, yes. I mean, I think that it's trying to achieve a lot, but it's also big, dumb, can't be fun. It's clear that there's a Reanimator in here. It's clear there's a little bit of Evil Dead in here.
Yes.
So it's hard to know at the end of the day what the filmmakers really wanted this to be, where they wanted to be a big, gory kind of early Peter Jackson-esque, just splatter horror, or if they...
I don't think it's going for splatter. I think it's going for something gothic, but also kinetic.
Right.
Like you said, like Raimi, but gothic at the same time.
Right. But I don't think, and despite my really liking this film, I don't think it achieves. I don't really think it achieves what it sets out to achieve.
No, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't overall.
Right. I guess a term that that good friend of Bill's, Joe Dante, likes to use is does the film succeed on its own terms? And I guess I can't say that it does. But that doesn't mean that's not interesting.
But wait, what if the terms are the director literally doesn't care if the script is any good? I mean, literally.
No, I hear you. Well, then I guess I would wonder what the aim is. I mean, is it simply to provide a series of vignettes that are kind of flirting with a person's malaise or unease or apprehension of death, or
an apprehension and also a love?
Right.
I mean, I think he's definitely doing what you're talking about. I think he is both. He's exploring death visually. He's not. There isn't really any remarkable thing happening in terms of verbal communication between characters or in terms of a sensical plot or story. But visually, he's showing us people getting it on in an ossuary on top of graves with dead people, over and over again. And so I think in that sense, it's a success because he does so sensually, visually very well. It's a complete failure in terms of like dialogue, and even a lot of the acting is it's a bit rough.
Yeah.
And Rupert Everett's a good actor, and I think he's able to make it respectable. But some of the other characters at times, or maybe I don't know if it's the direction or the editing, they chose a take that was just like some of the deliveries are really awkward. And I think it's helped by the fact that we know it's a foreign film, that whole effect of like you're watching something that's either dubbed or, where people are speaking a second language. And it's like, well, it was there. They were good. They were fine. That you would not accept at all if they were speaking, in their native tongue in English or whatever.
Yeah, no, I can go with that. I mean, I think that it is kind of an emo rumination on death, and it is, maybe not taking itself too seriously at all the time. But then when but it does lapse into trying to like make a kind of a more salient point. They'll kind of. I think at one point he goes into a Shakespearean like a soliloquy or whatever
at the end, the poem that he says on the cliff,
and then yes, exactly, and then there's these moments where he'll observe Miyagi watching the leaves blow away, and he'll speculate, Miyagi hates to see the leaves blow away because it represents something or other, and it's or the impermanence of
it's ham-fisted,
right? So
it's
things like that are. I almost wish that this movie just picked a lane and didn't, but I don't know. I guess I say that, but then it would just be the Reanimator. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know.
Well, gosh. I mean, Reanimator's a high bar for me.
No, it is for me too. But I'm saying it's, I guess it wanted to stand out.
Yeah.
In some way.
I mean, whether the director cares about the writing or not, it doesn't hold up for whatever reason. And it's one of the weakest things about the film, and it causes us to lose our focus when we're watching it.
Yeah.
Even though the moments can capture us and visuals will stay with us because the direction and the art direction and the cinematography, mise en scène are all so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I almost wish that this movie had spent 20 minutes less with the second iteration of she and the new mayor and that plot contrivance that doesn't go anywhere. And just maybe the next iteration that we see of she is when she's the prostitute / college student, or
she's got to pay her tuition. I like how it's all treated. Like there's so many like Italian like social politics of the day going on in this movie.
Sure.
Like the second when she's talking about how the mayor rapes her.
Well, so that was just and I'm not easily offended. But
It's pretty bad.
The movie's basically so we do need to go into her character, because she immediately falls in love with Ruby Roops
For no reason.
Just like the first
Just like the first time. Yeah.
And so at least like there's some connection there maybe, but she's got a fear of a big honking dong.
She's got a fear of the penis.
Yeah.
Of the phallus. And what happens? Like, how does she get cured of this, Colin?
Well, it's just what you said. She's raped by the mayor, who's her boss. And, not unlike Straw Dogs before it, she kind of likes it a little bit. And, and that gives her the green light to accept the throbbing phallus.
What she says is, he raped me and then he made love to me to apologize. The second time it was nice and sweet. And it's just like, oh my gosh, this is twisted. This is some weird toxic stuff going on here. And Rupert's listening and he's disturbed. And he's like, and so she says, and Rupert's just gone to this doctor and had this giant syringe inserted into his groin.
Right, because he wants to make this one work. So he's got to live up the impotence thing. And he never was impotent. In fact, he pretty much, the doctor was questioning his motivation.
If we're to believe the doctor's face when he unveils his phallus, he's got quite a package going on.
He's got baby arm for days. And I just think that he goes to these extremes. He wants the doctor to just cut it off.
Right. And the doctor's like, come on, bro. Like, let me at least just, give you something so that it won't misbehave for a while.
Yeah, it's too beautiful. And I have to be able to. And so instead he injects it with some kind of like a poison or something.
We got to talk about this syringe though. It's like giant and it has like a yellow, I don't know why it's disturbing to me when I watch that scene. I like literally am hunched over like, this is no good. This is no good. And he sticks it in him and Rupert just screams. I think the most he ever screams in the whole movie in that sequence.
Yeah. It led me to, because if Rupert was ready to have it just like, if he's ready for them to cut it off, did the doctor like stick it in his urethra or something? Like because he howls with pain when that needle goes in.
Yes.
It's not clear what's going on there, but
we
where
know
my mind goes.
It's getting injected into the groin somewhere.
Yeah.
Like it's either his penis or his testicles or somewhere in between. Something's going on that's very, very bad.
I'm not trying to be crass. This is just where
we might cut this part out. I don't know.
No, the movie the movie invites this.
It leaves it to the imagination, and that's a problem.
Yeah,
that makes it worse,
and it ends up not mattering. And I guess I just wish that they hadn't even done
that. Yeah. He goes through this whole thing and the doc's like, okay, you're impotent for a month, he says.
Which ends up not being true, but he also spends a good 10 to 15 minutes of screen time just emoing about his situation and how sick he is and he needs to be taken care of by Miyagi and all this. I just kind of felt like, man, this is all unnecessary.
We could have gone to Miyagi and Valentina.
Let's have more Miyagi and Valentina.
When all alone, it feels so bad, and waits again for love to start, to feel the beating of the heart.
Yeah.
And let's just cut to a oddly on this death kick, Francesco struggling with being the angel of death, picking up hitchhikers. They take him to the house. He sees Lay number 2, and then just her immediately conning him for money is enough conflict. You know, we don't need to, like, you know, thematically or what, you know, whatever they're trying to do with all of those different iterations of she. You can probably do it with 2 characters instead.
Yeah, maybe it was the rule of 3s. I don't know why they felt they needed that other one. But the funny thing is that nothing ever happens with 2. They don't. You think that they're going to go back, you know, because he kills she 3 by burning her alive because she wanted to sleep with him for money.
Right.
So he decides, well, okay, I'm going to burn you alive, which is kind of horrible. And
yeah, you were driving through like Hooker Row, like when you found these people, like, what did you think was going to happen?
Right. I also just don't understand. Like, he doesn't seem at all the kind of character who would be offended by this. If anything, he would just take it in stride and be depressed about it and then leave.
Or just walk away. I mean,
but he burns her alive. Like, I mean, it's kind of a strong reaction.
I guess maybe if we're to try to look at it through that lens that you kind of painted a portrait of, where every attempt he makes at living a fulfilling life is frustrated or is set back or thwarted and maybe this is just him at the end of his rope, but it kind of feels like he got there already. And you know, it's at this point I believe that he goes or maybe he's already killed Franco at that point. I
think this is when he goes and kills Franco. I think
it's after this, right? Because Franco I guess cops to the killing of the 3 women, and you know, Dellamorte is upset about this for some reason.
You stole my crimes from me, or something.
You stole my crimes, right? Why are your crimes valuable to you?
Right. Well, again, he's being thwarted. He's being frustrated in whatever he tries to do. So I guess that's what they're going for.
Sure. Okay.
But I mean, that's a possible reason.
Yeah. No, I'll take it.
But yeah, no, it's a good question. And then he goes to the hospital. And he sits there and talks to Claudio, and Claudio's kind of mumbling these. Is he saying anything comprehensible or sensical there?
I think at some point he's talking about how tired he is, or how he felt like he had no choice, or something like that. But you know, amidst all this, maybe the reason it's so not memorable is innocent nurses and doctors are coming into the room and just being dispatched by.
Yeah, I think like a nun comes in, a nurse comes in, a doctor comes. He just keeps killing them.
Yeah, and there's, you know, again, I guess at this point he keeps talking about how he can't tell the living from the dead anymore, and you know, I guess that's in there.
So that's a reason for him to kill the living, maybe, just like he kills the returners.
I suppose. I think there's also this thing that the movie's trying to do, where he's not sure that there's like, well, and I mean, it's very clear at the end of the film, but they do touch on it several times throughout the movie that he feels like he's not sure what's real and whether there is actual life outside of his town or his immediate place on the planet.
Which we're going to come to.
Yeah.
It just feels like a lot of these things that we're describing are happening in quick succession. Sort of, this reminds me of our discussion of A World's Greatest Sinner, where sometimes events are just thrown together in an order and they don't feel like they actually work together.
That's right.
And that's kind of what this feels like. Like, okay, I guess this is happening now. Okay, I guess that's happening now. Why is he burning the 3rd she? What? Why? Okay.
At the end of the film, which I guess we're getting to, you know, Rupee Roops and Miyagi, they decide that they've just got to get out of town. You know, I'm not sure what the big catalyst for this is.
I have a question for you about this. What is the little casket that they put on top of the car?
So that's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
I was just thinking, well, this would be great if he just had Valentina in there. And they just start driving.
In this like Volkswagen Bug.
Yeah, which is his car throughout. And, you know, Miyagi's on board too. And at some point they enter a tunnel. And before they get going, Miyagi wants Miyagi's very insistent that they bring this box, and Dellamorte doesn't want to bring it, but we smash cut to it on the top rack of this car. They go through this tunnel and they come up on a dead end at the end of the tunnel. And
after they get out of so they come out of the tunnel, there's a
Yes.
flash of white because of the sun.
That's right.
Out of the darkness. We don't see exactly what happens at first, and then we realize, oh, the road literally ends there.
Yes. It's
and it
very-
falls off onto a cliff.
Yeah.
To a gulch.
And they come to such an abrupt stop that the box flies off, and I think it's full of burnt phone books.
Oh, I thought it was maybe Valentina's head.
Well, I didn't.
That's what
see
I
it in
thought,
there.
but I didn't. I don't know if they ever explain like what's in the box.
Well, because as the box is falling into the little ravine,
yeah, and there's
not so little.
and there's ashes that fly out.
Yeah, the box opens up and ashes fly out, and it's kind of like the same visual that they use to assemble death out of thin air.
Right.
So, maybe they're trying to, as a movie critic friend of mine would say, do an art. But I don't know. I don't know if I buy it. I just think it's they're trying to visually tie in the end of this film to the events that preceded it, but. And it's not clear what the movie means by this. Is he in purgatory? Is this even real? I mean, for all we know, Dellamorte's still having a fever dream from his penis injection. We just don't know. But there is a weird reversal there. Do you want to describe like what happens to Miyagi and Francesco?
Okay, yeah. So before we do that, I just want to talk about. So right before they left, Francesco says to Death when he's looking at the cemetery grave that I was describing earlier with the shroud on it that has no face, and then the skull appears. He says, and this is exactly what you're talking about. They're trying to do an art, I think, and he says, "You and I are the same. We kill out of indifference, out of love sometimes, but never out of hate."
Right, which I guess tracks. Although he seems like he kind of hates.
He seems very hateful.
Yeah,
he burns that woman a lot.
Right.
Like I keep going back to he does stuff that's downright malicious and not sensical.
Like he seems like he kills when he's merely inconvenienced.
And then Francesco turns around, walks away, and as he does so, we see the skull in the shroud, and Death says, "Where do you think you're going if you haven't yet understood the difference between life and me?" This is where they're really trying to do an art.
Yeah, boy. And I just don't think it was fully hatched. Or maybe maybe this novel actually is able to kind of tie some of these things together. And maybe it does have a bigger point that it's trying to make. But don't just leave that in the novel. I mean, there's a reason that they call it an adapted screenplay. It's some things don't translate well to... some things don't translate from the page.
Yeah, or if you're going to do it, pay somebody who can write well. Get a Tom Stoppard or somebody. You've got the imagery down. You want to talk about life and death? Get a big boy to do it, or a big girl.
Well, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the novel is probably kind of dime store itself.
Could be. But going back to what we're talking about, Miyagi and Francesco, take the bug out. They go on this road trip, and Francesco's just blathering nonsensical nonsense, and they get to this cliff end, and then there's a switch where Miyagi, when Francesco stops the car abruptly because the road ends, Miyagi hits his head, and when he comes to eventually, after Francesco is, as you say, emoing on the cliff, Miyagi suddenly can speak, and he says, something like, take me home.
Yeah,
I want to go home. And then Francesco replies,
yeah,
that's right. So now their roles are reversed for whatever reason, for art reasons.
And then we're treated to maybe the cutest snow globe I've ever seen.
And then we go to a snow globe.
Yeah.
We go so it starts snowing on the cliff where they are.
That's right.
And we should, this is kind of important, I think, or it's supposed to be important. Francesco, when they get to the end of that road, says, "I should have known it. The rest of the world doesn't exist."
Right. Well, Yeah, I mean, I think it's supposed to be important. Sure, I can't tell you what they are.
What does this have to do? Yeah, what does this have to do with life and death and the meditations on death and the kind of lust for death that we've been discussing visually?
Maybe they're trying to say, and this is a real stretch, but maybe they're trying to say when you are so preoccupied with life and death the way this character is that you kind of become solipsistic in a way, and you stop caring about the rest of the world. And maybe the movie's trying to say like this person's so preoccupied with death that he forgot to know how to live, or forgot what life looks like, or
so from that interpretation, Francesco has not grown at all. There is no growth.
Right.
He gets to the end and he says something as ignorant as he would have said at the beginning.
He's devolved, if anything.
So if that's true, then he really has not learned to appreciate life from all this death.
No, if anything, he's gone deeper into his malady or whatever it is. And I don't know if I buy it. It's just my attempt to.
It could be. Your guess is.
If I'm at this film's defense lawyer, I got to put something together.
Okay, so it starts snowing. We cut to the snow globe of the two of them.
Yeah.
Why, Colin? Why?
Is it a representation of how trapped they are thematically? I don't know. Does it matter? I don't know. I don't have it. I don't have the answers.
When they've done such a poor job of asking the questions that they're asking, or maybe trying to provide answers that they may or may not be interested in, I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't, as long as we feel some kind of connection to the strong points in the film, which are, I think, what we've talked about, the imagery, the sounds, the sensuality of the film.
And I like the visual. I like kind of trying to chew on whatever that's supposed to mean, and like this big chasm in the road. I mean, it's actually other horror properties have actually cribbed from this. So I don't hate it.
No, I don't hate it. No,
but I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to try and. I'm glad I don't have to be this film's defense lawyer, because I don't. I wouldn't be able to put together a coherent defense.
What's frustrating to me is that the film has so many good things going on.
Certainly it does.
And that its spine is built out of paper.
Yeah.
That it just does not have a solid spine.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
It's a beautiful suit of armor with an 80-pound knight inside.
And that's exactly the conclusion I come to. I love the moments of whimsy. I love the sensuality. I love the preoccupation with life and death and avoiding life through death.
And you were going to mention the score as well.
Yeah, but before I do that, I just want to say the movie is almost all whimsy. And sometimes that helps it, and a lot of the time that hurts it.
Yeah. And
that's when it winds up going in these like non sequitur places, and it's just like, but why are we doing this now? And what? Okay, I guess we're doing that now. And it's unfortunate that, because it has so many strengths. Okay, talking about the score. Score is great. What did you think of the score?
I liked it. It had a bit of a. I mean, obviously, it's got some of that guitaro.
What's a guitaro?
Well, just some of that like 80s synth cheese.
Oh, cool! I love 80s synth.
Even though I do too, but it's not an 80s film, I guess. But it's got some of these interesting. I guess I would say musical flourishes that I would have hated in the 90s and that I now love.
Interesting.
As a person, well, as a kid, you don't. It's hard to hear. I guess maybe as somebody who, like so many others, is like raised on A-list blockbuster stuff with a big, solid, sweeping score and
orchestral
thing. It can be hard to appreciate that stuff. Now, as an older person, like I love that stuff. In fact, I like it a lot more than your straight-laced orchestra.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, but. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like there's any themes or motifs, though, that I really recognize, other than kind of like there's like a 4 or 5 notes that they played in succession throughout the film.
I would say I agree that it isn't extremely cohesive in terms of melody in any way, but it is cohesive at times in terms of a tone or a kind of sound, like you were saying, like this kind of older keyboard synth sound that they're doing. And that I think they were supposed to get Tangerine Dream, and it has quite a lot of Tangerine-esque cues. It starts off with just a low drone.
Yeah.
Did you notice that there's just this low hum at the very beginning?
Yeah.
Just going,
I did notice the droning, and maybe I wasn't listening to this in a high fidelity enough setting to like kind of pick out the nuances, but I did appreciate it. I thought it was a value add.
yeah. And the score is by Manuel de Sica, who's the son of Vittorio de Sica.
Okay.
Vittorio de Sica is a neo-realist Italian director and actor who and his wife was Maria Mercader, and they had this child, Manuel. But Vittorio is, very famous for Bicycle Thieves and Umberto D and any number of great neo-realist films. So I didn't realize that his son was a composer.
Okay.
And I think he did a great job. I really like a lot of the kind of tonality and texture of the synths that are going on in this film. And lastly, I want to talk about, in terms of the music, I want to talk about a song that happens after Claudio's motorcycle gang runs into a bus of Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
And Valentina's head pops off because it goes under the wheel of the bus.
Yeah.
So did you catch so my friend pointed this out to me. I did not catch this.
I don't remember anything particularly striking about that moment, so you'll have to point it out to him.
So when they go to the actual grave and they're going to bury all the motorcyclists and the Boy Scouts and everything, there's Boy Scouts at the funeral and they're chanting this song. And it goes like this. Never should have gone on a Boy Scouts picnic. Never should have left my room.
Never should have gone out on the Boy Scout picnic. Never should have gone just then. Never should have gone out on the Boy Scout picnic. Never should have, now I'll never go again.
Take me
And things like that. And those are the lines, and they're basically just chanting this song about how horrible this whole thing has been. And one of the lines is, I'll never go out again. Anyway, I just thought that was hilarious. So if you listen to it, listen to the boys in the background chanting this song while they're carrying the casks and stuff. It's bizarre.
Yeah, they have another moment like that. There is a musical motif that reoccurs, and at some point Valentina has lyrics for it while she's like singing to Nyagi in the TV. Like he's spinning like this makeshift disco ball that he's made for her, like around.
Yeah.
And she's singing the lyrics to a song that we've kind of heard. It's kind of like a lullaby or something like that.
Comes a time when death is sad, when all alone it feels so bad.
I don't know if it's some kind of Italian thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think they're doing interesting things with the score, and just like you were saying with so many other elements of the tradecraft. There's beautiful stuff in this film, and it's unfortunate that there wasn't a stronger backbone supporting it all or connecting it all. But because things like that can get lost a little bit, and when your head is spinning, trying to make sense of what you're seeing or trying to make narrative sense, I suppose, then some of those things can get lost by the wayside. And I guess that's maybe why I'm glad, though, in a way, that I had to go through this thing a third and possibly fourth time, because those things absolutely stand out in all of their full color when you have to revisit it. So, and it's worth seeing for those elements.
It does some things extremely well, and there's a reason why Scorsese thought it was like one of the best Italian films.
Yeah, he said it was like one of the most
90s.
important Italian films of the 90s. Yeah. Which is an interesting choice of words. But it's actually, I think about movies like Cape Fear and things like that, where, he's kind of trying to do all this practical stuff in camera, and I can see like little, I don't know, I can see like a visual creative side of Scorsese really being piqued by this material. So I guess I get it.
100%. I mean, again, cinematically, it's doing great things. The cinematography has a great texture. The certain colors pop really well. It's very rich in its colors. And the visual effects too that are maybe almost all practical. I don't know if there's maybe a little bit of animation somewhere, but no CG, and they're just all remarkable. There's just a lot of fun, creative ways to make things float or creating puppets to represent death. And
I mean, at some point, all of the kind of deadites or the returners have all these kind of distinct looks. I mean, Claudio has like this blinking green eye socket and like screws.
Yes. Did you notice that blinking green?
Yeah.
What is up with that? I was trying to figure out, like, what's the motivation for the blinking green light in his eyeball?
No idea. It's worth your time. But your head might be swimming a little bit the first time you check it out. So
yeah, it is a collection of rich visual things, but it's hard to keep it all cohesive in your mind.
I mean, I think that's all I have for this one. I'm glad that you put it on my radar. I feel like it's a movie that a lot of people that are really deep into the cult horror stuff will keep bringing this one up again and again. But I'm not sure if that's just because, like all cult things, it's nice to be a champion for something that no one else has seen or heard.
I think it's a lot of it's what we're talking about. I think because it is so strong in certain areas and so weak in a kind of conventional way in terms of narrative storytelling, that it's probably attractive to a lot of people who just want to see something that doesn't necessarily make sense but is still memorable.
Right.
And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. No, you won't forget it.
And you said emo, and you totally, like, what I was thinking earlier was this is basically like one of the ultimate goth movies. Like, if you're goth and you see this movie, you are going to be in love. You are going to want to dress like the characters.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is goth, through and through.
And I think that I can see other things cribbing from this. I'd be surprised if, like a Constantine or whatever would have been a thing without this, or like a Hellboy or stuff like that, that's trying to like have these emo characters that are just depressed with their lot as like supernatural like peacekeepers or whatever it is. I feel like that's like a pretty fleshed out genre at this point, and I bet a lot of it owes something to this. So
that's a really good point. I just want to bring up a few other little facts. When Miyagi is watching war stuff on TV, there's like this sequence. I think he's like shoving spaghetti into his face, which is that's literally how he eats. So I'm not being mean. He literally does that. The bug at the top left corner reads War Blob. And then at the end of the credits, it says special thanks to Blob. So I don't know if Blob is like a news service or if it's a joke, like an in-joke, or what that means. Oh, one other really weird thing. Did you see who did the voice of Death?
I did not, but it did strike a chord of some kind of familiarity.
I think they might be changing the voice, but it's Derek Jacobi.
Okay.
Very famous English actor.
Okay.
Probably maybe more famous for theater than
I don't know
TV
if I'd be able to pick his voice out of the lineup.
No, me neither. Did you ever see Dead Again?
Yeah, I have seen Dead.
He's the villain in Dead Again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, they assembled some talent for this, and at the very least, if I may end on a superficial note, Anna Falchi, man, she's got it going on.
That's my girlfriend. Anna Falchi is just incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. And one of the highlights visually in every way of this film.
Yeah.
Make a wish. I grant wishes.
I want you to fall in love with me.
But I'm already in love with you. Haven't you noticed?
Okay. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that's going to do it. I mean, we've probably got like 5 hours worth of material on this movie.
Fantastic.
So we're gonna have fun editing it. But thank you for again putting it on my radar and talking about it with me.
Thank you, man. This episode of Cosmic Motion is engineered by Colin Dixon, edited and mixed by William Budell, music by William Budell and Colin Dixon, produced by Colin Dixon and William Budell. Recorded at Stoker's Ellenwood Shop of Horrors in beautiful Eagle Rock, California, and
Harkness Studios.
Right on, in beautiful...
in very white Redondo Beach, California.
If you'd like to contact us with comments, suggestions, or high praise, email us at cosmicmotionshow@gmail.com.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
God. Death, death, death comes sweeping down. Filthy death, the leering clown. Death on wings,
death by surprise, veiling evil from worldly eyes. Death that's born as life succumbs, while death and love, two kindred drums, beat the time to judgment day. An actor in a passion play, without beginning, without end, evermore. Amen.
Get into the music making. Here we go. Are you recording? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
The Projection Booth is single-handedly the greatest film podcast you could ever listen to or could possibly want.
Top notch. 5 stars. This has quickly become one of my favorite film-related podcasts. Always interesting.
A completely unpretentious yet fully comprehensive look at films from all genres.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.